just to mention briefly, I ran the support group in the San Fernando Valley for like 10 years. I've been involved with PRO, and I love this organization. It's just fantastic. And the reason I drove out here last night from LA is because of PRO and just this mission of no one's isolated with Parkinson's. So that's why I'm here today, and I'm excited to talk to my panelists. So I'll just introduce them now, and we're going to have a little conversation on helping people here with Parkinson's. So Sue Lang, who is a wife, mother, and retired nurse. She worked in cardiology for 20 years, also worked as a school nurse, serving special needs students here in the desert. And she has been married for 61 years. Wow, how about that number? And her husband was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2019, and she's been his caregiver from then till now. So welcome to you, Sue. All right, and our second panelist is Janet Underwood. She's the owner and president of Senior Housing of America here in the desert for more than 20 years, and she's also was the executive director of a senior television, which is by, for, and about seniors for about 15 years here, and she also has a master's in gerontology. So welcome to you, Janet. All right. And then the third panelist is Jose Gonzalez, and Jose works at my agency, so he too drove out here from LA to join us. My longest running employee, Jose, like 15 years. I mean, this man has helped so many people. That's why I wanted to bring him. I mean, just the level of care over and over again. The people, regardless of what they faced, Jose helped them. So he's a fantastic person to have here. I'm really proud to bring him. He's a dedicated caregiver with over 30 years in healthcare, trained as a CNA, LVN, and hospital corpsman. He provides compassionate care while ensuring patient well-being. So thank you, Jose. All right, fantastic. All right, so Sue, I'll start with you. I just have some questions here, so we'll get started. The first one is just the day-to-day experience. I know you've helped your husband for many, many years, and how is that?
I have helped him, and I wrote down a few notes to talk about it, but first of all, I want to say thank you to you, and thank you to Parkinson's Resource Organization and Eileen Lynch for having us here this day and for inviting me to speak. So what are my day-to-day experiences helping my husband of 62 next month years? Being a caregiver for a close family member, a parent, a child, or a spouse presents many challenges. And in the case of Parkinson's, it's a 24/7 job. There's no time during the day or night when you, the caregiver, is free of vigilance. Striking a balance between your loved one, keeping him safe and allowing him to maintain some degree of independence while preserving your own strength is the primary goal. So some of my daily responsibilities include the following. Starting with the first big one is medications. Administering the medications, preparing the medications, pouring the medications, picking them up from the pharmacy, and watching for side effects. I help him with showering, dressing, and personal grooming. He can pretty much shower on his own, but we have a little rule in the house that he never showers unless I'm in the house. And so whenever he's in the shower, I might be in another room, excuse me, but my ear is tuned towards the shower and my eye is on the watch as far as how long it's taking him. Monitoring his blood pressure. He does have an underlying cardiac stent, so we watch the blood pressure. And also, when a person has Parkinson's, the medication and the Parkinson's together often work to bring your blood pressure down. And when standing up quickly, your blood pressure can drop quickly, so it's very important to monitor that blood pressure sitting and standing. I monitor his bowel and bladder function. Again, you heard from the doctor earlier that Parkinson's has a big effect on the bowel. Protecting him from injury. A lot of times, no matter what you do, in the blink of an eye, he's up 1 minute and down on the floor in the next. And so that ends up having to provide wound care if necessary. Keeping track, I have to keep track of doctor's appointments, driving to doctor's appointments because he doesn't drive anymore, physical therapy appointments, and so on. And knowing when to contact the doctor, when it's time to go to urgent care or go to the emergency room. He woke up one day about a couple of months ago and one leg was swollen, red, hot. I got him in the car and zoomed to the emergency room. Fortunately, he didn't have a clot, but it was cellulitis, so we got that taken care of. So at the same time, I'm also running the household. Shopping, housekeeping, laundry, bill paying, date planning, cooking, pet care, and responding to household emergencies. You kind of have to take over for where he left off. So above all, I'm making sure that he feels comfortable and good about himself, and allowing him to be part of the decision-making process in social and daily planning. So in summary, for me, the role of caregiver is a difficult one, no matter who the provider is. And as a retired RN, I have the skills to handle medications, recognize symptoms, and communicate with the doctor. But as a close family member, the difficulty multiplies because of the emotional attachment. It's very difficult to see a loved one decline, despite your best efforts. And that, unfortunately, is what happens with Parkinson's. I try to deal with it by focusing on the present and making every day a special one for both of us.
Wow, Sue. Well, that was beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you. I think what you're describing is what many people in this room have faced at some level. You have a unique experience where you have the medical training, but this is not a hospital patient. This is your husband, right? So it's far different, right?
When you're in the hospital, you've got many people around there to help you if necessary. When you're at home, when you're alone with your spouse or your patient, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. So I'm sure you have worries too. I mean, what kind of things worry you as you
The
go
things
through
that
your
worry
day?
me the most, would something happen to me that I wouldn't be there to being able to take care of him? I know there's the caregivers, and I would have to turn to that, but that worries me the most. Or him falling and injuring himself, and a broken hip, hit the head, something major. So those are my biggest fears.
Yeah, which I'm sure many people share. Falls can be minor, a scrape, bruise, or more serious, broken bone, right? Head injury. Right. So you have to be aware.
And with a patient with Parkinson's, as is true for most people of a senior age, the golden years, or Alzheimer's, if you end up out of your hospital, in the hospital, out of your home in a hospital, or in a nursing care facility or a rehab facility, it's very difficult as far as the brain goes. So I do my best to not have that happen to my husband.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I used to, my mother, who died a few years ago in her 90s, I would call her every Wednesday was our day for a phone call. And she would say what you just said, John, the golden years are not so golden.
That's true.
John, there's struggles.
Not what we thought they were going to be, for sure.
So I understand that. So I'd like to move on just to Jose, since we're talking about the caregiving part. And I know you've worked, Jose, with many people with Parkinson's. So what kind of things do you see? What sort of struggles do your clients face?
It's important to go in there, get to know the patient, see what they like, try to engage in their kind of activities that they like. I think they touch on exercising, making their life more enjoyable by learning how they, what they like, what they enjoy, and participate with that.
All right. Well, thank you, Jose. And we were talking this morning about, we have a shared client. He's an elderly gentleman, a veteran, and he does not like to exercise. So he will resist, and he'll go, no, no, ow, ow. You know, he has his ways of stopping all of this from happening. So how do you deal with something like that?
Let him not enjoy, but be a participant in those activities. And we are going to hear some resistance, but just kind of know that it's important to him, and he needs to have them done. And say no. We're gonna have to do this. So
Yeah, because I've seen Jose do that, where the expectation is there, like we are going to do this. Maybe not right now. I'll give you a moment, maybe, but we're not stopping, and it's so important, especially the motion, has been mentioned in the earlier panel, that continues. So, great. So just to move to our third panelist here. Janet, who's working more the transition points. So when maybe you could share with us some of the signs that tell you it's time to consider transitioning, when it's time to leave the home.
Well, first, I would like to salute all the caregivers here. I salute you. In my book, they're all saints. No matter where they are, in the home, in an institution, through an agency, they are all saints, and I applaud them. And Sue, you took everything I was going to talk about. But, that's, the question is, when is the time to transition, right? That is the crucial question. And I've always said the time when your home is no longer your castle. When it becomes an obstacle course, when it's no longer manageable, even with a caregiver. Sue is, of course, extraordinary because she has all this background and she knows what to look for and she knows medication. But those are very, very important issues. Being able to spot something that's off and saying, we have to go to the hospital now. Knowing when to change medication, when to call the doctor and say, this isn't working, what do we do next? How do we do next? And with Parkinson's, of course, there's falls. And falls almost always determine what happens next. They fall again. And I've had many clients who are caregivers, and they've fallen on top of their caregivers. And then what do? How do you get up? You need a two-person assist instead of one person, one caregiver. You need two. When the needs increase so dramatically, when you're so tired, you don't have anything left. Those are signs and symptoms that you need to be thinking about another alternative.
And what are some of the options then if people are facing this decision?
There are many different stages. Some people are still independent. If they're fortunate enough to stay home, like Sue's husband, and have a wonderful caregiver, like Sue or Jose or any caregiver that's able to come in and help, that's wonderful. Some people prefer a lot more socialization. They want to go to assisted living at a point at which they can, and it's not determined by necessity. They know it's going to progress, but they want the socialization as long as possible. So in that case, assisted living is an option. Most people wait until it's too late. And I always ask people, don't wait until you have nothing left to give. That's really essential, until you fall apart. And I know that's something that's talked about in every support group. So don't wait too long until you have nothing left. The next step would be boarding care after assisted living. And that's predominantly the option, because most caregivers are valiant. They have the heart of a lion, and they want to protect their loved one for as long as possible. And they're going to do it until they can't do it anymore, and at that point, usually boarding care is the best option, because there's always somebody there 24/7. The medications are locked up. They talk to the pharmacy. They take them to the hospital. They talk to the doctors. And generally speaking, a board and care is no more than 6 people. There are other models that are larger, but usually there's 6 people. So there's enough for some socialization, but the caregivers are there. They have 6 people to watch, and they know their routines inside and out. They know when they have to get up to go to the bathroom. They know when they need to be turned, if that's the case. They know when they need to exercise. And by the way, there's this wonderful little device. I didn't hear anybody talk about it, but it's on TV, and you can, yeah, that wonderful little device, and wherever they're sitting, they can get some exercise. Their feet move. There's a lot of things that board and cares provide that are very helpful. And the caregiver can be with their loved one and enjoy their loved one and know that they're in good hands.
All right. Well, thank you, Janet. And just a reminder, like the other session, if you have a question, you can write it on the card and bring it up here, and we'll try to get it answered for you. And Janet brought up a good point I wanted to ask you about, Sue, is this, how do you take care of yourself, the care for the caregiver? Because if, as you said, 24/7, no one can sustain that forever. You know, you get burned out, you get tired, right? So how do you deal with that? What do you do?
This is true. It's probably the hardest thing, and what Janet said, I know that, you know, if I would ever get to a point that I couldn't handle what I'm doing, then I would be looking for a caregiver. But for myself, I'm a little stubborn. So it's hard, but I try to, where we live, we have a very nice gym. Oh, I see an old friend. And we have an outdoor pool and an indoor pool, so I try at least once. I'd like to make it twice a week to do go to the pool and do laps. I try to put my AirPods in and listen to music and kind of do my mindfulness, a lot of deep breathing. And when he's busy watching the TV or watching the sports or something, you know, I'll stick my AirPods in and listen to my music. I find that very relaxing and helpful. That's about it.
What kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to a lot of, as my sons would have said, or did say, elevator music, but we have a golden age like the elevator. And of course, I'll have to say my favorite singer is Johnny Mathis, so I listen to a lot of that. Yeah. And nobody in the room will say, who's he?
Who is he? One
One youngster. So yeah, so I try to do that. That's about the best I can do right now. I did have last May when my back went out of whack, and I was really unable to really do the stuff I had to do, and so I spoke to our primary care physician, and she ordered home health services to come to the house, and that was our first experience with a caregiver, and it was very good for both of us. But when it's a little bit of a challenge thinking when you're the nurse to get help.
Yeah, you
It's
can't help
very
but kind of.
difficult to ask for help, but
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Letting go, letting go.
Yes.
Letting go.
All right. Sorry, I put some glasses on here, so I'll read a few of your questions here. Do you have suggestions for preparing for the journey as a caregiver for a spouse newly diagnosed with Parkinson's? So this is someone, I believe their spouse recently diagnosed. Now they're started the journey that you've been on for many years. So
Well,
what would you say?
I would say now, this is not something that I did. I mean, he was diagnosed in 2019, December, and for the first 3 years, we pretty much went it alone. You know, went to our neurologist and followed the orders, and I just did what I needed to do, whatever he needed. And of course, you know, initially the symptoms were very minimal, only really just tremors, but they progressed along. And so the point that I'm getting at for myself was back in, I think it was 2022, we found out about PRO, Parkinson's Resource Organization, and I was excited to find it because it was in our, you know, locally. I mean, I had seen the Parkinson's Foundation on the internet, and I was trying to get information on that, but we found PRO, and it was, you know, a real blessing as far as I'm concerned. And so I would say to somebody that has a friend, relative, or spouse that's newly diagnosed, once you get the medical treatment plan going with the doctor, and you get things under the belt, what you're doing, then to contact PRO and get in touch with them, because there's so much information about Parkinson's and so many questions about Parkinson's that doctors just don't have today the time to answer all those questions in a little visit. They do as best they can, but they don't, you know, we've got a lot of questions. So this organization has all of the answers. Plus, they have support groups, which are have been very meaningful to us, and particularly to my husband, because he feels like he's not alone in this journey. So we're very grateful to PRO, but that's, to answer your question, I would say that would be my second step advice to do.
Get some help. So, and that's why they're here, right? They want to help people with Parkinson's. So if you have Parkinson's, they will help you wherever they can. And Janet, we have some questions for you. It's just some people not familiar with board and care, so maybe you can elaborate. Question here, what is board and care?
Board and care has the same license as any assisted living community. So they have the same governing board. They're under the same protocols. They're generally 6-bed. As I mentioned earlier, there are some models that are larger. They can take 10 or 20 people. We don't have too many of those here in the Valley. But generally speaking, there are no more than 6 people. There are caregivers 24/7. Parts of the day, the early parts of the day, morning and noon, there are generally 2 to 3 caregivers helping all of the patients. At night, there's a caregiver that's on the premises. They make their rounds, they know their people, their residents, and they know when they need help. They know when they generally wake up during the night because There's only 6 people, and they monitor them very closely. They're housed in a house just like yours that can have 6 people.
All right, thanks. So it's a residential home, just in a residential neighborhood that's converted to a board and care and then certified by the state of California here. And then the follow-up question is just people are wondering how to pay for it. Does insurance pay for this, or who pays?
It is the question. It is the question because it's becoming very expensive, and it's all private pay. There is no insurance unless you have, and those wonderful people who thought ahead to get a long-term care insurance policy, God bless you, because you can't get one hardly anymore. But if you have a long-term care insurance policy, it will cover board and care. I'm not a long-term care specialist, so I always tell people to check with their insurance agent, but most long-term care insurance policies will cover board and care. Otherwise, it's out of pocket. Also, the VA has a program. If your loved ones served in the military during a conflict, even if they didn't see any action, if they were in the military during a conflict, they may qualify for one of their programs that will help pay for assisted living or board and care.
All right, yeah, that's an unfortunate fact is many caregiving services are out of pocket. Like insurance will cover for the medical, for a nurse or a physical therapist to come to your home, but not a caregiver, unfortunately. All right, another question for you, Janet, is interest in assisted living. How many assisted living and board and care homes are in the Coachella Valley?
I don't have an exact count. We used to have a lot more board and cares, but that has changed dramatically over the past, basically since COVID, and as everything has since COVID. But I haven't counted really. They come, they go. The assisted living communities, by and large, I don't think any have left. So we have some staples that have been here. Some of them have been here 30 years and more. So I don't know exactly how many, sorry.
All right, here's a big question. Then how do I pick the right one?
Who wrote that, my husband? Well, essentially, that's why I'm here. I've been here for 36 years. I've been in aging all my adult career. I've had this referral service for close to 25 years. So I know I don't know how many there are, but I know them personally. I go into their facility, I check them out, I do all the legwork. So someone like myself or someone like me, a referral service, is a good choice because we have a lot of experience with the large communities and the small communities. What I like to say about the small board and cares, I know who's good at what. I have some board and care owners that are amazing about medications. They're really on top of medications. Some are better with socialization. Just like people, we all have things that we do well and we do better at. So I know them personally and I know what they're good at, and I try to make the best fit. So someone like myself is a good option.
All right. Well, that's great advice because it varies quite a bit from facility to facility. So you have to get out and visit before you can really pick, and someone like Janet can really guide you to make that decision. There's really two main options. One is private. You pay someone privately, just cash, like what you're describing. That's usually the cheaper option, or you go with an agency, which is usually a little more. So Sometimes the private works out great. It's, I'm not critical of it. It's just another option. Although I have an agency, you get more flexibility. Like if you call an agency like mine, we ask, what hours do you want? And then we find someone to fit that shift, whatever it is. It's usually the morning or the evening when the busier times when you need extra pair of hands. We can also do night shifts or day shifts, so there's a flexibility. There's also just the safety, a background check, a drug test. We do all of that stuff. CPR certified, TB tested. We make sure. I'm not going to send anyone into your house that I don't think is a safe. For me personally, and it puts my business at risk. If that person is incompetent or makes a mistake, drops the patient, everyone is in a bad situation when that happens. So. The other thing I think is important if you go with an agency is there's some supervision. Like I have a nurse that goes out every, it's 90 days. Every 3 months, nurse comes out and checks in. How are things going? Do you like your caregiver? Any change of medication? Or if someone's in the hospital, we send a nurse out immediately because of status change. Right, so I have a nurse supervisor, so that's helpful. Someone is keeping an eye, a clinical eye, on the care of your loved one. So we'll just wrap up. Any closing comments or things you'd like to say while we wrap up here?
And I would add, again, emphasize, don't wait too long to get help of any kind, whether it's support or a caregiver or to transition. Don't wait too long.
And I would say that I'm going to try and not wait too long. I would just say that my most important thing as a caregiver is just making sure that my husband with Parkinson's is having a good life and living the best life that he can.
Well, thanks so much, Sue. Thank you to our panel.